I've been very eager and curious to try alcohol markers, and I finally broke down and bought a small set, just 48 colors, because I wasn't sure if I was going to enjoy it or not. These ones are from Ohuhu. They are the Honolulu set, and they have a chisel tip on one side and a brush tip on the other. I recently discovered this Nyota character from Pop Mart, and I really like her really dimpled drawing type of look, and those are the two that I've gotten so far. And yes, my blind box army is growing, and they make me so happy. I am super unfamiliar with alcohol markers, and so I did order a marker pad as well. I didn't end up really using it. I'll tell you why later, but I will do some more tests on that paper in the future. The set comes with 2 little swatch cards for the 48 colors, and I really like the paper that the swatch card is made out of. I actually wish that the Ohuhu marker pad was made out of the same paper. It's more like a watercolor paper, and I find that the color is more vibrant on this paper. The set also comes with a colorless blender, and that is meant to help you blend things together and also lift. While I decide what sketchbook to use with this screen protector, let me show you what I've been reading this summer so far. Lots of comics. That Tech on Can Create was amazing. I loved Battling Boy, and I reread Jungle Book. That is one of my favorite novels. And more comics. That one is great and creepy. Yep, I got into Akatar on Mom Book 3. And someone recommended me this Circe book, and I'm going to start that soon. Because my set was small, the box that it came in, or the little bag, is also small, and the page divider, or the page protector, is also small. So I found that this Royal Talon sketchbook was the perfect size to test the page protector with. So I did all of my testing in here. In the future, I will definitely do more tests on different kinds of paper, but I really enjoyed working on this sketchbook, so I can recommend it for that. I knew I was going to have a hard time because I am not really someone that gravitates towards markers of any kind or anything with a felt tip, and I was utterly confused. So I did some testing, I turned off the camera, and I really liked this kind of sketchy look, but I thought I should try something a little bit more involved to see what these markers can really do. And the nice effects that I've seen other people do have to do with blending and layering. And so I did this kind of little sketchbook page of just some doodles, low-key, no-pressure tests where I can just go hard and get all my nerves out of trying a new medium. I did make a few shorts of some of these if you want to see them closer up. My initial color selection was meant for portraits, but I was still feeling nervous about tackling a portrait. So I decided to take a look at the brighter colors in the set and see what I could do with that. Also, just to play around and get, a bit more confident with the medium. I definitely had fun playing around with it, and I spent a few days actually playing in my sketchbook with the markers, and I have come to love them. It took me a while to figure out how the layering works exactly, but I really like layering colored pencils on top. I think they blend so well together, and it's nicer than with watercolor because you don't have any texture to deal with as far as the paper surface is concerned if you're working on smoother paper. So after stalling and doing some tests, I set out on a portrait. So I selected this image because I thought it was a nice profile, and I do like the photo, but I am definitely not great at selecting suitable reference photos. It's like I have a blindness for lighting, and it turns out that this wasn't the greatest reference because it had very, let's say, fashion lighting, which tends to be quite flat. So the model looked beautiful and the pose was great, but the lighting wasn't very interesting. So as I went on, I just decided to like add color to create more interest, and I really like the effect that I got. During this portrait, I figured out how the blending really works, and the paper really needs to be quite saturated if you want to get a very smooth blend. So it helps to layer in a certain area with your colors while the paper is still wet, because if you're gonna activate it again, you have to like work up to that saturation, and alcohol evaporates really quickly. So that's something that you have to keep in mind. It works very similar to watercolor, so I think that if you are familiar with watercolor, this might be a really fun medium for you. You have to work faster, obviously, because the surface area doesn't stay as wet as it would ordinarily. This might have to do with the sketchbook, that paper that I'm using. I've definitely heard that people like working on watercolor paper with this medium. And I did notice with my few little swatches on the Ohuhu marker pad that it definitely absorbs more moisture. So maybe that keeps the surface more saturated for longer. And that's something I have to try. But on this paper, it evaporates quite quickly. I really like the effect that I achieved with this portrait. I think it has sort of like a risograph feel to it, and it made me want to try doing kind of a risograph or like a printing technique where you just use like 3 or 4 colors and layer. Anyhow, I think I achieved a kind of interesting look. I'm pretty happy with it. And these were the colors that I had selected initially that I thought would be suitable for portraits, and also because from the research that I did, people said that colors of a similar value blend easier. So that's why I selected these colors. I'll have a little swatch on the side there so you can see which colors I used. And I finished this off with some colored pencil, and that just like brought it together, I think. But this is very stylized, and there's not a lot of lighting in this portrait. So, of course, I had to try something else. I had previously prepared a drawing that I intended to paint with these markers, or color. I'm not sure what it is. Is it painting, coloring, something in between those two? And at first I was like, oh, this is very caricaturized, and I've been doing a lot of inking practice, and I think my drawing style is like going in this more cartooning direction, and I'm not going to force the reality if that's my tendency. And I thought it looked kind of cool anyhow, and I don't mind that it's a little bit more stylized. Anyhow, I decided to break this portrait down into like sections of color, because I've seen people do that and I thought it looked cool, and I thought I would give it a shot. And I just kind of thought in warms and cools really to build this up. And I use very similar colors to the previous portrait, but maybe just in a different fashion. This photo reference definitely had more interesting lighting and better shadows, so I could really play around with it a bit more. And I really like the way it turned out. So I'm going to put some music on here and let you see this process. And I will meet you on the other side. And we'll take a little look through my sketchbook and all the things that I tried with these markers. And because I was having such a great time with them, I kept going and kept experimenting. This page was to test out the warm tones. And I really found these cue cards very, very helpful. I refer to them all the time. But I didn't really like the way they were laid out. So I did another swatch in my Royal Talon sketchbook to break down the colors to see sort of the earth tones and the ones that you would be able to use for portraits together, and then kind of groupings of 3 colors that you could use to blend together. I ended up going to the art supply store and picking up a few Copics that I thought would help extend the color range, because there's not really any pastel tones. So if my one gripe with the color selection would be if you had a few more pastel tones and then maybe a neutral yellow, because all the yellows are quite green leaning. But having said that, I really like the color selection and it really suits me, and I really like kind of these ochre green colors. They're kind of my bag anyways, so I really enjoyed playing with them. Those like simple shapes are a good kind of way to practice blending. So all of these are done with the 48 set, and then when we get to the monsters, I started using the pastels that I bought, the Copic ones. I have a little workshop coming up at my local library, and I thought I would take advantage of the markers and make some stuff for the kids. So this is all of my experimentation. So far, I've only used the markers with colored pencils as a line art. I think this little 48 set is very good, and you can get a lot out of it. I don't really see myself expanding too much yet, but I will play around with the set that I have right now and see like where I might be missing color ranges. I think the pastel set would be also a nice thing if you're wanting to do portraits specifically, but I was happily surprised at the colors in this little set, and I would super recommend it. Let me know if you have any questions about this medium. I'm super new to it, but I'll try to answer any that you might have. And if you have any recommendations on ways that I should try using alcohol markers, please share them in the comment section. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.